All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. We're doing a little bit of an extra stream today. Just because we missed one earlier in the week, I'm kind of just going to do a quick makeup stream to sort of push this along a little bit further, see if we can't make a little bit more headway on our animation system, and start hopefully closing the loop on that. Before we get into that, though, I do want to just take a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our elite partner, Javier Lazaran, followed by our partners, Gobolis Inc. and Matt Oscard. They are the highest tiers of subscription over on YouTube memberships and Patreon, followed by the list of supporters you see here on the screen. They are a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated and helps me cover the cost of running this channel and project, things like software licenses, hosting fees, eventually assets, things of that nature. So thank you guys very much for that support. I greatly appreciate it. And of course, I would be in error if I did not also extend a large thank you to all of you guys, the viewers, whether you're joining us live on the Twitch side or the YouTube side, or if you're just catching the VOD after the fact. I appreciate you guys being here, because without you guys, none of this stuff would exist. So thank you guys very much for being here. Okay, so just to kind of give a quick update as to where we are on the actual system itself. In the last stream, we were basically in the process of hooking things up and getting it to work in the actual scene. So I believe I've got all that stuff hooked up correctly. One of the main things that I was missing in the scene last time, in fact, let me actually just pull up that right now, was this, which is basically just a quick hack that I put into place to automatically play the first animation that is present on the sort of animated mesh, right? So all we do there is we just query a list of the animations and say, hey, if we have at least one, let's go ahead and just grab the name of the first one, play it, and that way, at least, it automatically starts, at least while we're testing this system, so that we don't have to kick it off manually. In the future, the way that this is going to work is obviously something like the player will have some sort of state machine that will manage what animation is currently playing and things of that nature. But at least for now, while we're still kind of implementing this, we're just going to automatically kick it off like this. From good to see you. Yeah, it is on a Sunday. It is an extra day that we're doing. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to make up for missing the single stream last week or earlier in the week. So yeah, I don't know how long I'm going to be on here. I just kind of want to see if I can move this forward a little bit. Trash Cans, good to see you. How have you been? Sunday stream, yep. Yeah, figured I'd give it a shot, right? But it's Sunday, yeah, exactly. I don't get to do these very often, but and I actually wanted to get on a little bit earlier, but I was having a few technical issues on my workstation that I had to work through. All right, so all of that considered, we do actually have something showing up on the screen, but it's kind of foobar, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to go ahead and run the application, and I'm going to load, and I'm just going to move it, and you'll see that we do actually have something animating, but it's wonky as hell, right? So I think what's happening here, because if you look, you can actually see sort of the head there of the model that we were looking at in the last stream. And so I think what's happening here is some sort of indexing issue, either with the bones or the vertices just not lining up correctly, or maybe a vertex, or I'm sorry, a matrix multiplication out of order, something like that. I haven't completely figured out what it is yet, but obviously it's not right. But what this does tell us is that we are able to load the file. We can see that the materials are loading in correctly. We can see that the animations are relatively loading in correctly. We know that our animation updates work. We know that our changes to store all this data in the storage buffer work. And we can see that the animation is playing roughly at a given frame rate. So at least all of those things are positives, right? Even if it looks completely foobar, it is a step in the right direction. I'm doing great, Trash Can. Thank you for asking. Appreciate that. Let's see. Good timing. I was bored and unwilling to work on a project. Good to see you. Yeah, fair enough, From Lake. I mean, hopefully this will motivate you to get back into that, right? Okay. So, oh, this is interesting. So just looking at the logs here. Let's see. So we have, here's where the material comes in loaded. Playing the first available animation. The animation apparently is called hips. This is just the test model I grabbed off the internet, so I assume the test model is good, but who knows, right? Let's see. So it says it's now active on the base mesh, and then it says not found on base mesh. That is interesting. So why would we get that? Maybe that's the source of our errors too. So that's probably going to come from our animation system. Not found on base mesh. Let's see. So animation. Oh, wait a minute. That's because this is in the wrong location. So we should probably figure this out. So let's see. We loop through all the animations, check them by name. We got this one. Current animation is equal to I, right? So what we should probably do here is move this down a line. That's actually where that should be. Because if we get here and we still haven't assigned a current animation, then that means that that animation wasn't found. And I'm not 100% sure if we should actually be saying on the base mesh, because that doesn't... I guess it does make sense. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we can leave that. That's not really an issue there. Okay, so let's continue looking at the logs and see if we see anything in here that that speaks to us. I kind of doubt there's going to be much more in here, to be honest. So here's where the material comes in loaded. And then we process the mesh. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if that's messing something up. Ready to be processed. Ready to be... Is that not here? Oh, it's probably in the scene. Ready... to be processed. And we want the next instance of that. Okay. Let's see. So, what this is doing... Actually, I don't think this has... we should probably kick off the animation at this point. Not where I had it elsewhere. I guess we could say, because this really just happens when the material is loaded, so I guess we could kick it off before this. It usually is not going to take more than about a frame or two to come in afterwards. I guess it doesn't really make that big of a deal. That other thing is a hack anyway, so I don't think that's going to actually affect us in any way that is massive. Okay, so I'm guessing that we have like a either a vertex indexing issue or a a bone indexing issue where those two aren't lining up, is I'm guessing why that's showing up so funky. Let's see. Yeah, Alex, I don't normally stream on Sundays. I'm actually doing this to make up for a stream that I missed on Wednesday. But yeah, good to see you. Penguin Operator, good to see you as well. Let's see. Hi, I'm a long-time lurker. First time I can watch you live. Different time zone, I guess. Yeah, probably. Just let you know, thanks to your video, I've been able to fix some issues on my project. Awesome. Well, welcome. I don't normally stream during this time, and I don't normally stream on the weekends, but every once in a while, it's kind of good to be able to do it, just to kind of see a few of you guys that can't tune in during the normal time. So, welcome. All right. So I wonder if we take a look at is there anything in here where we're actually lining this up? So find bone index. Base find bone index. So this is one of the places where, and you can actually see I was messing with this offline. This is where we're doing some of the transforms. So we have final matrix is the global inverse transform times the world transform. That should be fine in that order, because we kind of want to take that from the most global level transform down to the more local. So in this case, we then take that and multiply it by the bone offset. And then if that bone index is less than animator max bones, we go ahead and we load it into the shader data, final bone matrices. Bone index is the final matrix. I feel like we should probably move this up here. Right, because really we don't want to do any of this. This doesn't even get used otherwise. And in fact, we could probably actually take this. We should put this up here. That's better. All right, so obviously it needs to not be invalid ID, which I suppose, technically speaking, since we do have the animator max bones here, if it is invalid ID, that would also qualify as that. Because our base find bone index will return invalid ID, which is a huge number, right? It's max U32 in this case, if it can't be found. So technically, we don't even actually need this check at all. We can actually remove that. Okay. So let me just bat this off to the side here if I can grab it. You know what? This actually has a lot of arguments. Let me actually just make this so I don't have to scroll so far over, because that's kind of annoying. All right. So the animator, the animation, the node index, right? So we do process animator, then this, interpolate position, time and ticks. I have a feeling that all of these, well, maybe these things aren't working correctly. I have a feeling that they are, though. I feel like this is probably not where the issue is, but I suppose we should probably review them just to be sure. So interpolate position essentially loops through all of the positions in our channel, a current animation channel. and interpolates those, right? So we essentially, right here, we get a T0 and a T1, right? And we just kind of interpolate, we grab a factor based off of that, and then we lerp it, right? So we take the positions IDX and positions IDX1, and we interpolate that by the factor here, linearly. So I don't see anything in here that actually looks wrong. Yeah, I don't see anything there that looks wrong. So position's probably okay. Rotation. This rotation is actually using our quat slurp, which I assume is correct. This is pretty much the same thing. I don't see anything wrong with this either. And I'll bet scale is probably pretty much the same thing. That's just lerped as well. One second. I don't see anything wrong here. Base fine bone index. Okay, so I don't, unless this is maybe wrong. But I've used this a bunch of other times, I feel like, too, and it seems to be fine. Let's see. Stream on a weekend, yep. I know it's rare. Too bad you have an exam tomorrow. Yeah, that's fair enough, but you know, we'll be here at our normal times this next week. Yeah, so from Lake. So just to clarify on my position with that, what we're going to do, my approach has changed with that, because we're going to keep the engine open source, right? And the games that I'm going to write, the game code itself is not going to be open source immediately, right? So my plan there is to release the game, and then probably a couple years down the road, I'm thinking 2 years down the road, I'll open source the game. But I don't want to open source it like right when I release it, right? That doesn't really make any sense. But what I will do, and what I am going to do, is I'm going to use that game code to make templates for the game engine, and those will be free. So there'll be sort of templates that go along with the game engine that can be used to make different types of games. And we're going to develop those on stream too and make those free. So, you know, there will be that as well. Hope that makes sense. One of the weirdest issues I had with bones animation was that the root bone I started with was not good. Sometimes there is a bone before the root one. Well, that's sort of what, I mean, it's not a bone, I guess, but that's what the the global inverse transform is, essentially. It's not really a bone, it's just kind of what brings everything into model space. Started working with Vulkan after learning OpenGL, but it is DirectX 11 is better for Windows and use Vulkan for Linux. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing Direct3D at some point. I don't know exactly when we're going to get to that, but at some point we are going to be doing that. That'll probably come after the metal layer. But the cool thing about Vulkan is you get both Linux and Windows at once, which is super useful. So let me turn my other lights on because I think the lighting is a little bit weird here. That's a little bit better. Okay. I don't normally stream during the day, so usually I always have those lights on, but I didn't think to actually turn them on this time around, but that looks a little better. All right. Okay. So I'm wondering, have I done something dumb with bones? Let's see. We've got a first-time chatter here. Welcome, by the way. Do you consider function with output parameters as pure? If yes, probably. Depends. So if what you're doing is, well, I guess output parameters are more a construct than anything else, right? They're not. It's more of a convention, I guess you could say, because we just say this is an output parameter, right? But we don't actually have any way to sort of say it's an output, right? So in this case, I would not say that this is pure, because this is actually modifying the state of the animation or the animator, right? So I would not say that this is an example of a pure. If you're talking pure functional programming, this is not it. What you would maybe consider that is if you had, I don't know, if you had like a hierarchy that you wanted to get a list of nodes from, and you return an array of the nodes, and then have an output parameter of the count of those, but you never actually modify the initial state that you're getting the nodes from, then yeah, I would say that is probably pure. But yeah, I don't usually think about that too much, to be completely honest. I just write the code. What kind of engine programmer actually makes a game? Yeah, I know, right, Orshi? What are we doing, right? Why'd you design the renderer only with render packet like user command buffer, but not with register unregister design? I believe command buffer is great for immediate mode drawing like I'm GUI or debug drawing. Mostly it's me just trying things out to see what works better. Like a command-driven renderer just is a lot easier to use. The thing I'm trying to avoid is having a bunch of state in the renderer. And if you have like a register unregister, you're kind of offloading a lot of state onto the renderer, which I'm trying to kind of avoid. There are things that we have that are that way. Things that have to be that way. Things like images, buffers, resources, that kind of thing. Some of those things have to be managed by the renderer or at the renderer level. But other than that, I try to avoid that. Games with the source at least available are such a huge boon. I got my programming journey started directly by modifying Minecraft source code built in Java, so very easy to decompile, and community symbol mappings were widely available. Later on, Mojang started providing official symbol bindings, and recently, since like last week, they just went straight up, shipped the symbol names with the symbol names still there. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like I said, I'll be doing that at some point, but not as soon as the game is released, right? Because I would actually like to be able to sell some copies of the game if possible, you know. But when we get to the point when we release the game, what I'll do at that point is I will put a specific date where I am going to release the source code. And then once that date passes, it'll just like auto-release, right? And that'll give me a chance to sort of figure out how I actually want to do that, and package it in a way that it makes sense to actually open source it. Because there's some other things you have to kind of keep in mind when doing that as well. Thank you for the follow over on the YouTube side. Appreciate that. From like, yeah, if you're making your first game, I would say do not do multiplayer or any sort of networking. I would say not for your first game. I would table that idea and do something simpler. Because once you start introducing multiplayer, it introduces a lot of complexity, which if you haven't released a game or made a game fully yet, like, I don't know that I would go down that route right off the bat. Yeah, definitely do single player first. Yep. Don't care if games are open source, just think it's cool at some point. Their source becomes available. Like, you might still have to buy the game to get the assets usually to run the game. Yeah, exactly. It's just, if I open source the game code, then I also have to ensure that somebody can just clone it and easily run it, right? And not have to try and support that right away. I mean, I could say, there's zero support with this, and I might even when I release it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking 2 years is probably a decent amount of time. 2 years after I release it, then I'll open source it. Unless it completely tanks, and then I'll just be like, yeah, heck with it, open source it, right? Jelen, good to see you. All right, so where were we? I had a note in here somewhere. I think it might have actually been in the... I think it might actually have been... in the importer. Which I did actually... So we're already transposing our matrices from ASEMP. So that's not the issue. This, I think, is what the problem is. So, the way that our animation system is set up is we have a single sort of animation, right? And that has a maximum number of bones that it can have. And that's global to the animation. The problem is that we also have this concept of multiple meshes and multiple animations within a file, within our spec, right? So let me find... Do I still have it? Open, yes. Okay. So within our sort of K3D format, right, we have a submesh count, right, which means we can have multiples of those. We have bones at a global level, nodes, animation counts, and string table, etc. The problem is I believe in ASEMP, the bones are actually relative to a submesh instead of global like this, right? So we don't have the concept of a global set of bones. Whereas when we're actually reading this in, we're treating all the bones as global. And so I think the problem comes in where we're actually processing the submeshes like this, and we're looking through, the bone data for each one of these things. And we're doing mesh num bones, and then we're using those indices, right? And I was actually playing around with some logic in here to see if I could actually figure out what that is. But I think the problem might actually be in here. And so what we do was further up here in the importer. Let's see. Where did I do? Here it is. So we get all bones across all meshes, right? And so essentially we're going through all the meshes and getting the number of bones. And I feel like this is the wrong approach. And I have a feeling it's maybe a combination even of this code and the code below that's actually a problem. So I don't remember what the... idea was. Wait a minute. I don't remember why I was doing extracting the bones here like this, because I think doesn't the Oh, it doesn't have bones. I thought it did. Okay, it doesn't, apparently. Okay. So here we're going through. I wonder if we need a lookup table for this. Do we do a lookup table, or do we just maybe do this in line all the way at the bottom and fix the index at that point instead of trying to put it in like this and then make it line up later? Right, so we could do here's the bones, right? We are copying these to the asset, but we don't necessarily have to do it in this. Just because it comes in from the asset this way doesn't mean we actually have to handle it in this order. We can always fill that out later, I think. Because we come down here, maybe this is where we should actually be doing it. So let's try that. Let's, let me actually split this screen. So we'll go down here, here. And so here we're actually kind of doing the same thing again, right? Only this time we're actually saying, look into the bones array, and in this case, if we go it this way, we're getting the bone by name, and then doing the add bone weight based off of that bone ID, which is an index into the bone count, which is done here. Which I guess should actually technically work. I just feel like I'm missing something. So if we add all of the bones here, we're extracting the name, the offset, and the ID, which is all we actually need, right? And then we can match on the name later. And the ID becomes the bone count, which at that point, why do we even need to store the ID, I guess? And then we store that here, and then later when we're coming through here, we loop through the mesh, we get all of the mesh bones for each one of those. We loop through the weights. And then we loop through bone count again to get a bone with the matching name, which that needs to be optimized. That's terrible. And then if those names are equal, then we add the bone weight using the BID, which is the bone ID. That should actually work, I think. Do you average the weight somewhere? I think, well, average them? No, but I do in the shader, in the vertex data, I do have a weight, or I should say a set of 4 weights and a set of 4 bone IDs per vertex. And then I essentially just accumulate those in the vertex shader. So, in fact, right here. Right, so our vertex layout is here, right? So we have, for each vertex, we have up to 4 bone IDs and up to 4 weights. And we essentially just go in and I do, bones sub in bone ID 0 times the weight 0, right? And then I do the same thing with indices 1, 2, and 3, and I just add those in. So I accumulate the transform that way. Which actually, I'm wondering if this is actually the right way to do it, or if I should be multiplying that in. You also got problems to get all bones, which affects meshes from SM. Like, can't it just give us a list of all nodes with your bones? That'd be nice, right? Maybe it can. Maybe it's just a user issue. I believe there's a flag somewhere which enables bone lists for mesh, but only for FBX. Yeah, that's the other problem, is it varies per format. Text editor I'm using is NeoVim. You switch from Windows to Ubuntu. Nice. That's a good step in the right direction. Let's see. You working with Vulkan in some years, do you think its complexity is worth it? Full disclosure, sometimes. I mean, if you want something like hardware ray tracing, you have to go that way, right? I would say for your average small project, especially if you're making like a 2D game, absolutely not worth it. But if you're wanting to get into modern graphics programming and, into game engine development, you're going to have to know it. So it depends. If you look to the vertex scanning in a compute shader to avoid duplication from usage of the index buffer, or is that a bit too overkill? Yeah, I have not done that, no. I've not looked into doing that yet. And again, that's probably... I should have gone that route a long time ago if I was going to go that route. You would probably still prefer OpenGL if the drivers were actually good. Yeah, that's the problem, is they're, not. Tommy Johnson, absolutely not. No. No way. Because I'm actually writing code, on the screen versus not. I'll leave it at that. All right. So, part of me wonders if maybe this is the issue. Maybe because I'm... No, addition should work. We should be able to accumulate those, and that should work perfectly. I don't see why it wouldn't work. I'm just trying to think of... why? I guess... I don't see anything here that looks wrong. So all we're doing is we're taking the model matrix times the bone transform, which I don't think the order of those is wrong. So we go by model and then bone transform and then we go by the input position. I know the normals are not going to be right, by the way, but we'll figure that out after we get the vertex position correct. I'm sure it's probably something really stupid. That's the annoying part. Operator precedence should keep this from multiplying out of order. I suppose I could be explicit about it, but I don't think that this is the issue. Right. Certainly not on this first line. Maybe these are out of order. I can't imagine that that would be the case, though. Oops. Let me do this one. Right. I can't imagine that you'd have to do this. Maybe it's just as simple as that. I kind of doubt it, though. I still feel like it's a bone index issue. Let me build. And pull this back down here and run. Oh, yeah, now it's absolutely gigantic, isn't it? I can't even actually see where it is. Yeah, that's definitely wrong. Okay. It's definitely not that. Yeah. That's the weird thing, is it's like, even if I look at the geometry, right? Like the geometry itself looks correct. It's just the bones are all like completely whacked. Because actually, ironically, the head actually looks like it's doing the right thing. So it's almost like it's like a, it almost feels like an off by one issue somewhere. Okay, so we have bone name. This is AI bone name. Let me see. So this is the... Okay, that should be fine. That's a K name, so we can do fast comparisons on that. This is the offset matrix, and I believe that's the only thing in there. Okay. I still don't know if this is actually even indexed into the bone array.
You dingus.
But that should be the same. I think that's the only usage of it. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. I was writing a bit in Vulkan a bit. Maybe it was around 3,000 lines of code just for rendering a cube and moving the camera. Yeah. It's a bit of a meme when it comes to Vulkan, right? 1,000 lines just to render something. There are, though, certain things in modern versions of Vulkan that have kind of helped to overcome that, like not having to use render passes for one. That helps. I would say the single most annoying part about Vulkan is descriptor sets. By far. Descriptor sets and descriptor set management gets in the way all the time. So, yeah. What Linux system do you use? Arch, by the way. I even put it as the name of my machine for the memes down here. But yeah, I use Arch Linux. Transition layout is worse. Worse? That would be a number 2 for me, I think. I still feel like managing descriptor sets is the most annoying thing ever. And I feel like image layout transition is maybe 1 or 2 behind that. Yeah. I think actually probably the second most annoying thing is there's no like automatic way to say, you know what, I want you to manage synchronization for me. I don't want to have to deal with that. Like, give me some sort of reasonable default for managing synchronization. That just doesn't exist. And that's super annoying too, for sure. Do you suggest to switch to Arch Linux? I suggest you use whatever you're comfortable with, right? I'm not ever going to be one that says, you have to use this or you should definitely use this. No, use whatever you're comfortable with. I like it, but it's not for everybody. You have to have some knowledge of how Linux works, and you got to be pretty comfortable with it to switch to Arch. It's not a beginner distribution, so it depends on where your skill is at with it and how willing you are to dig in and problem solve and customize and all that on your own. Was using dynamic rendering. It does simplify the code, yeah. So yeah, you're saying it's dumb to have to fix the API, make it good at release. Heard how people use Vulkan for Android development. A lot of Android smartphones will still have locked old Vulkan versions. Yes, that's the problem. Is all of the support for legacy hardware is the problem with the API because of the way that stuff works. That's the entire problem with it. That's the reason GL is such a mess too. It's just all of that legacy has to be carried over and supported. Diamond, how's it going? Yeah, early/late stream, makeup stream. Yeah, I don't normally stream on Sundays, but good to see you. How have you been? Timeline semaphore is relatively easy to use for the sync, but it's annoying. Yeah, exactly. But like, there's no default, right? Like, it would be nice if if there was like a way when you're standing up the Vulkan instance to say, you know what, just give me some sort of reasonable default where I don't have to tell you how I want to synchronize my stuff, right? And I realize like the reasons that they did that. I realize the reasons that they give you that control, because it can greatly matter. But it's like, it'd be nice if there was some way to just be able to have a default that doesn't have to do that. Where like, for example, if you don't want to use your own custom Vulkan allocator, your memory allocator, right? You just pass 0 and it just uses whatever the driver has, right? It'd be nice to be able to just say, I don't want to pass any, any sort of sync objects. Just null and just figure it out. But here we are. You're new to Linux. You've been using Ubuntu. It's excellent for you. Then stick with that then. Yeah, for sure. Maybe in the future switch to Arch, but like, what I recommend is like when people want to switch distros, especially to something that's a little bit more advanced like that, do it in a VM. That way, if you blow it up, it doesn't take out your entire machine, right? Vulkan plus dynamic rendering plus DBA plus bindless does simplify Vulkan by like 2x. Yeah, I would agree with that. The problem with bindless is it's not universally supported, especially by legacy hardware, which is annoying. Which is why I don't use it. It's got growing support, but it's still not unanimous. But yeah. Doing good, working on SIMDizing. I like that you turned that into a verb. My collision detection and creating flow fields, trying to play with compute shaders to calculate flow fields. Nice, awesome. Yes, okay, so Tech 256, yes. VK don't care would be amazing for obvious defaults. Yes. Whatever that is under the hood, -1 or whatever under the hood, who cares? But like, yes, it would be nice to have just a VK don't care. Like, I don't care what you do for this. Like, just give me the default. Some modern games require ray tracing, and at that point, binless is a given, so I guess it heavily depends on your target spec. Exactly, right? I won't say that I'm expecting this to run on a toaster, but like, I don't want to limit it to like people that have RTX cards, right? That would be kind of silly for sure. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Appreciate that. Welcome.
You dingus.
And thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Simple colon. I'm doing well. How about you? Hope you're doing well. Do you recommend to start with OpenGL or Vulkan, knowing nothing about graphics pipeline but comfortable with modern C++? OpenGL. Use that to get familiar with graphics programming and the concepts behind that, the math, dealing with shaders, all that stuff. And then once you've written a few renderers, not just simple spin a model on a screen, but like actual renderers that can render a full scene and that kind of thing. Once you've done that a few times, then I would say switch to Vulkan, because OpenGL is deprecated. It's not going to get any more updates. Nobody's updating it anymore. Eventually it might be phased out. But yeah, you're going to want to definitely move to the new, modern graphics APIs, as they call them. Don't understand the warnings for multiplayer. In a LAN situation, how much more is it to create a connection, send your coordinates, and the direction of the player? What don't I know? So you've got to think about, there's a lot of complexity that comes in when you're talking about latency of packets. Even if you're talking a LAN, there's still latency, right? So it's not like an instant thing. If you are using UDP for like things like movement, which is generally what you'd want to do, there's no guarantee for the order that those packets come in, for example. So you've got to deal with that. You've got to deal with terminated connections, reset connections. How do you handle an Ethernet cable being unplugged, right? What do you do? There's all kinds of things that you have to do. And then you've got things like handling movement. How do you handle movement, right? Because you can't just, it's not like you get movement updates once per frame. You get movement updates, say every 50 milliseconds or so over the network, if that, and it's at an unequal interval at that, right? And so then you have to start thinking about things like, well, do I predict the movement based off the last couple of things that I got and then correct afterwards? And then you've got to worry about how you correct that. There's a lot that goes into it. And if you haven't even made a game before, you're definitely like shooting yourself in the foot by taking on that complexity on top of it, right? So I would say don't do that for your first game. Leave that complexity for your next one. Let's see. Let me scroll back here just a little bit. How does one even start all of this? Is it even worth it with all the AI stuff? So first off, don't worry about the AI stuff, right? AI is not going to be making games anytime soon, for sure. And even if it does, they're going to be crap. Because AI does not have a little thing that the human brain does called context. So the way that you start this is you kind of do a little bit of research into what you want to learn. Do you want to learn how to make game engines, the tech that powers games like Unreal, Unity, things like that? Or do you just want to make a game? What kind of game do you want to make? What platforms do you want to support? Start thinking about those questions and doing a little research around, what tech you should learn for those particular things. Out-of-the-box game engines work fine for many projects, and they don't work fine for other projects, right? So figure out what it is you want to make, what it is you want to do as your ultimate end goal, and kind of go from there. Do you currently work in game development, or have you in the past? I have in the past. I do not currently, because I enjoy having work-life balance. Yeah, and don't start with the AI stuff. Start with your own brain. Yes. So that was going to be my next point. AI is fine for things like, building unit tests or automating the drudge work of writing, I don't know, a makefile or something like that, right? It's fine for stuff like that, but like the thing I always say is don't export your critical thinking and problem skills to AI, because just like not working out or something will cause your muscles to sort of atrophy and lose strength, your brain is the same way. If you're not using those skills and you're exporting those to AI, those skills are going to weaken, and you don't want to do that. So never, ever use AI to replace your own thinking, right? Learning is always worth it, AI or no. I'd agree with that. Yep. First time catching you live here. Welcome. AI does not have creativity. Yes, exactly. And creativity does require some sort of context as well. So it doesn't have critical thinking skills or context or creativity or any of that stuff. It's nothing more than a huge, massive set of weighted averages, and that's it. Tried some simple game projects with C and Raylib. That's a solid way to go. Yep. Spent more time with Godot to help my daughter building her first game. Awesome. That's pretty sweet. Love it. The last time one of the FANG companies announced fields that AI will take. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I agree. Use AI for guidance. Yeah, I mean, that's fine, right? Like if you want to sort of understand a concept, I suppose that's fine, but fact check it, right? Make sure that it's not like making stuff up on the fly. But yeah. I'm a normal software engineer, web dev, backend engineer. How difficult would you say it is to pick up game dev? I notice most engines use blueprints now. That would be Unreal, right? But like, if you're wanting to pick up game dev, like it is a completely different set of skills, but it's not one that's unreasonable to pick up. Like I taught myself how to do all of this stuff. It just takes time. The thing that I always like to say to folks also is that there's not a way around the learning you have to do. There's only through it. So don't try and take any shortcuts thinking you're going to, skip the line and just automatically get it like that, right? Because it's going to come back to bite you. You need to understand things like linear algebra, and there's great YouTube channels for that stuff, right? Like a lot of this stuff, it's all on YouTube that you can find, or for anybody that's thinking about game engine development, I always recommend this book, which is Game Engine Architecture by Jason Gregory. This is a fantastic overview of what goes into making a game engine, and even has a little bit of a primer on processors, memory, C++ in the very beginning of it. It is pretty high level, but it's also a really good resource for that kind of thing. So I usually suggest that one as well. AI like OpenAI's ChatGPT and stuff, I see them as a better Google search, but I'll never use them to create things for me. Yeah, I mean, and better Google search is relative, right? Because they do make stuff up. They hallucinate. So if you haven't heard that term, look up AI hallucination, right? A lot of times when they don't know the answer to something, they'll just make something up because they're nothing really more than a fancy token generator. They don't have context or critical thinking skills. So there's a possibility that the information that you get from them is going to be wrong. And they even say that on the page that you access. So enjoy having a life period, forget balance. Right. I mean, that's a little, I didn't care about that like so much when I was younger. I didn't care as much, but like there comes a point in your life where you don't really want to work 70-hour weeks anymore plus, right? And I mean, like I do this here, but like this is fun for me, right? This is not, I'm doing it because I have to. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Anything outside of OpenGL 3.3 core is risky to use depending on your target. Yeah, I would agree with that. If you're targeting desktop, you're probably fine with 4.5 core, but man, there are a lot of OpenGL driver compatibility problems. Yeah, so if you use 4.5, it's not going to run on macOS for one thing, because macOS only supports up to 4.1. So right there, even you're eliminating a whole class of devices. Always start with the basics and build incrementally. 100%, yes. Yep. Don't try to, bite everything all at once, bite off everything at once. Take it a step at a time. Been writing a networking library for like months. Seems to be something I'm always forgetting. Top and top, I know evil. Yeah, I understand that for sure. I'd recommend math and physics before even considering coding a game engine. Yes. Especially the math part. Physics depends on the game you're making, right? Like the game we're making is not going to have a physics engine. So that's depends heavily on the type of game you're going to make. AI as autocomplete is the only way to use it for now, and never more than one line. I don't even use it for that, Diamond. It's great at semantic searching. Basically the only thing I use it for. That's fair enough. Yeah, I would agree with that. Has creativity, it doesn't have novelty. Can mash up, all it can produce is mashup of stuff humans feed it. Right, which I would consider a weighted average, not creativity, right? Because it's not the same thing, right? It's basically just averages with, math.random thrown at it. Seeing how a lot of people can solve a problem with AI and they didn't even try to understand what the AI wrote, just copy and paste. And one guy says to me, I don't know how to solve a problem because ChatGPT didn't give me the answer. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with it, right? Like, too many people lean on it too heavily and they don't understand what they're doing. And it can be super dangerous too, right? How many stories have there been out there of people just, what's the term? Vibe coding stuff. They'll vibe code an app and it'll have security holes all over the place because they don't know what they're doing. You want to make a game with your game engine? Yes, we are going to make a game. It's called Shadows of Illumina. Sorry for the flashbang, but we do have the start of a game design document here that has a whole bunch of, and I'm scrolling through this super fast, just, because we have a lot of design that we've already done. And we started like building out a world map and stuff for it too. It's a 3D isometric action RPG is what we're going to be making with it. So yes, we're gonna make a game and release it all the way. We're gonna take it all the way to release on Steam, rather. You use Super Maven? I don't even know what that is. It's crap, but sometimes if I'm changing 5 things in the same way, it makes it faster. It's disallowed from doing anything more than that. Fair enough, I guess. Weights and biases plus BLAS equals intelligence. Debatable. That's cool. Good luck. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Let's see. Let me catch up over on the YouTube side. Okay. So when I look at your screen and see all that stuff, my brain immediately thinks of the C++ code from our Athena emulator. I'm not sure what that means, but that's how we use AI at work. Copilot can make some changes faster or attempt to spot where a bug might be coming from. Makes boring 9 to 5 less of a grind. I mean, okay, those are like valid uses for it though, right? Like, hey, refactor this, or, refactor this small function, or, analyze this and see if I'm leaking memory. Like, that's the kind of thing it's useful for. 49 viewers on YouTube. I think you should be on Sunday less, or more often, rather. Yeah, I know, right? I wish I could, but maybe someday. For math, I recommend Math for Programmers, 3D Graphics, Machine Learning, and Simulations by Paul Orland. I've actually heard of that before, but I haven't read it myself. I will say school didn't teach me how to debug code. Watching how AI debugs code taught me. Since then, I tweaked the strategy a bit, and so that's interesting. So watching how AI debugs code, how does AI debug code? That doesn't even make sense to me. So, yeah, I'd be interested to hear that. But yeah, debugging is like even more important to have an understanding of than understanding programming languages or writing code. Understanding how to analyze code and debug it is way more important. Hi, Lucas. How's it going? Good to see you. Welcome. Oh, your last message was a joke. Okay, I gotcha. Fair enough. Intelligence with quotes, right? Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. What code did the AI debug? Was it a trivial case, or was it something tricky as a full project with thousands of lines of code? Yeah, see, that's the other thing, right? Because that's only going to work up to a certain point. Because again, AI doesn't have context, right? So it can analyze like a single function and maybe come up with a reasonable answer. But a code base like this one that's like 74,000 lines of code, it's not going to be able to do that, right? It's just not going to happen. Been going through Handmade Hero recently, and I'm surprised how much I've been unwittingly influenced. It unwittingly influenced my style of programming, compression-oriented programming. Yeah, that's fair enough. I've been thinking about watching through parts of it again, to be honest, myself, because it is super useful for that kind of thing. 100%. Do some coding? Yeah, I know, right? It's a good point, though. All right. So, well, we're not really doing coding. We're kind of debugging, right? We're trying to figure out why our models look foobar. Okay. So we loop through the meshes. Each mesh, we get the bones. And then we essentially push bone count plus. Okay, so we do have max bones, which is 64. This is probably not the best way to do it, if I'm completely honest, but so if we have, I guess, I wonder if we should do, let me output something here. Because I'm wondering if this is an issue too. Already exists. Skipping. And to this, I will do, actually, do we have this? We'll do this, mname data. Just so that I don't have to actually, go through and re-extract that name. So I'll put that, we assert that the bone count is less than the max bones. That makes sense. We do the name, the offset matrix, bone count, and then we increment the bone count. Okay, so this automatically re-indexes all of those bones that would be per mesh into having global bone IDs. Okay, and then down here where we're extracting submeshes, we are essentially keeping, we have a vertex weight accumulator, which this, all it does is contain our bone IDs and our weights, right? So it's just an array for each one of those things, and then we just essentially add them in here through this add bone weight. So this, again, goes through the meshes bones, which is the same thing we would have done here. Only this time, through the bone, we actually we analyze all of the weights, and then we iterate bone count, which would have been up here. And we loop through those bones. We should create a map for this, probably. It'd be a little bit more efficient, but oh, this was one thing I wanted to do. I want to do AI bone name is equal to that. Oops. And then this is K name. And then down here, we could just do AI bone name. Right, because we only need to generate this once for that bone. And then for the weights, we go through and we have to iterate the bone list again. So we iterate that and we say the first one we find with that name. Then we go ahead and add that bone's weight. And so that bone data is going to have, let's see, vertex ID. So this vertex ID is going to be influence of a bone on a vertex, right? So this is a single influence. Okay, so we should be, this is the accumulator that we want to use, right? So we have bone data here. So it's an index into this array. And then we'll index by vertex ID, which that makes me wonder if that is actually correct. Should be, because these are local to a mesh. Okay, and then the next thing we pass is the bone ID, right, which is this BID here. So that is looping through this bones array that we created up here, which is already a global ID. And then we take the vertex weights weight. I wonder if this is wrong. The index of a vertex, which is influenced by the bone, strength of the influence 0 to 1. Influence from all bones at one vertex amounts to 1. I suppose we could verify that, right? So I guess once we get to the end of this, we could then say, let's do a quick loop, and we'll say, I guess we could just use I for this. I is less than 4. Oops, wow, completely butchered that. Okay, U8 I equals 0. I is less than 4, and then plus plus I. And then here, we'll do like a accumulated F32 total weight equals 0. And then we'll do total weight plus equals, and then we'll do oh, wait a minute. That's vertex ID though. We need to actually move this, because we actually need to do this per vertex. Right, so we need to do a for U32I is 0. I can't use I guess I'll have to use V. Equals 0. V is less than mesh number of vertices plus plus v. And then within this will be bone data sub v, and then weights sub I, right? And then when we're at the end of this, let's do a k-assert that total weight. Actually, we should probably do a k-float compare, right? And we're going to do total weight, and we're going to do 1.0f, right? And so that essentially just needs to be, within a very, very small tolerance, right? Because you do have floating point rounding errors. So I'm going to put in here a hack for now, and we'll just say verify vertex weights. And so theoretically, all of those should have a weight of 1. So we'll build that, and then we'll do import and see if we get an assertion. And we do. Interesting. So how far in did we get? 130. So what's the total weight? Oh, okay. I guess our epsilon isn't quite big enough. All right. Let's modify that a little bit. Instead of doing this, we'll do a let's do a k-abs for this, and we'll do total weight minus 1.0, and we'll take the absolute value of that, and we'll say as long as that's less than that, which is kind of a large epsilon, but I suppose that should work. So the difference between total weight and 1 should be less than 0.01 rather. Should take the habit to put assert everywhere. Yeah, I'm actually forcing myself to get more in the habit of using assertions than ifs all over the place. Okay, so yeah, that was just an issue of my assertion being a little bit overbearing. Okay, so we do have vertex weights, like proper vertex weights on everything. So that tells me that I don't think that we actually have an issue. Potentially we don't have an issue with bone IDs, right? So we take those, and then we take the bone data, and after we get all the way down here, after we process all of our vertices, we go ahead and we grab the bone data, if mesh num bones. So we take target vertices sub I, which is an index into the vertices for that particular mesh. Okay, so that makes sense. And then bone IDs elements sub B, which is going to be 1 through 4. So that makes sense as well. So we set bone IDs to bone data sub I, which is also going to match up with the elements or the vertices, right? Just like up here. Bone IDs sub B. So that looks correct to me as well. Then we have weights. Okay, I mean, that seems correct to me. I guess what I could do to make this a little bit more readable, right, is I can just do, let's see, what did we use? Did we use V here anywhere? Yeah, we did. I guess I could just do out v, and that's going to be equal to the address of this, just to make it a little more readable, right? And then why? Oh, out v. Right. There we go. Okay. And I suppose we don't actually even have to do this. We don't even have to do this way. We could actually just do a mem copy on this. It'd probably be faster, actually. So let's actually just do that. So we'll do a k copy memory, and the target will be elements, and then the source will be bone IDs. And then the size is going to be size of F32 times 4. Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. So k copy memory. Right, and then we have this size of, this is going to be I32 times 4. And then we can get rid of this. Okay. So let me just make sure. Oh, did I do that backwards? I did. This should be F32, and this should be I32. Okay. So that seems fine. Then after we've gone through all verts, then we go through all the indices here. That I'm pretty sure is correct because we did have the model actually rendering correctly before we applied the animation data. So I think that that's fine. Let's build this, and I'll run the import process one more time. Okay, that seems to have worked. Let's see if we have any visible difference. I doubt we're going to, but no, not really. Okay. I should have looked at the normals for that too. I didn't think about it. All right, so I think am I missing anything in here? I don't think I am. Okay. So we've got that, and then I guess the next thing that we're going to have to do... Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is always assuming... This is always assuming skin vertex 3D. Which is not necessarily always the correct move. This should probably be doing if mesh, whoops. If it has bones, then it's skinned. Otherwise, this should just be vertex 3D. right? We're actually kind of accounting for that in here, but we weren't accounting for it anywhere else. And then we free the bone data. Okay, so this makes me actually wonder, now that we've verified this, makes me wonder if we're actually just applying it wrong in the animation system somewhere. See, it looks great. Yes, it does. Any recommendations on how to avoid tutorial hell? I like what Mesmo says. Stop watching tutorial videos and read books and implement. Yeah. I mean, tutorials are fine to get you started, right? And they're good for resources. But, you know, you have to, in order to get anything from them, you have to fully understand what that tutorial is giving you, right? And remember that tutorials are a curated experience. So you're not always going to necessarily get, you know, a full understanding of the entire problem or additional context from the tutorial, because they're usually super focused on one particular thing. But yeah, ultimately, you know, take tutorials as a starting point, but then implement your own thing and learn how to research and look stuff up on your own without having to rely on them. They're fine for a starting point, but once you get past that, you know, definitely learn how to sort of solve the problems on your own. Loops are hard. Yeah, exactly. C style C++ is not just C++ style and C++ code in C style. Check it out online. It's a whole paradigm. True. I like the phrase, if you say X will never happen or Y must be true here, just assert it. Yeah. Yep. It's a good point. Philip, first time chatter, welcome. Missed that message a few minutes ago. All right. So where I go to apply these things, base fine bone index, so this should be real dev, you think I could tell by the NeoVim, but it's the beard that gives it away. That's funny. Welcome, by the way, first time chatter. I appreciate that. That's very funny. Interesting stuff. Is your game engine publicly accessible? Yes, it is. It is heavily in development right now, though, so I don't recommend actually using it or trying to use it as a game engine, just because we're sort of test driving it at the moment. But this is sort of the website that I've created for that. So there's a link here to that, and on this page, you can scroll down and hit contribute on GitHub, and that'll take you to where it is on GitHub. So we're actually working in a feature branch now, but yeah, it is free and open source. It's Apache 2.0 license, which means that you can use it personally or commercially. Does not matter. The only thing I ask is if you do use it, just say you used it. That's literally it. There'll never be any sort of licensing fees or royalties of any kind. This is supposed to be like an educational type of exercise. And so that's the engine itself will always remain free. All the devs I look up to have amazing beards. Yeah, I mean, you know, I didn't have one for the longest time, but I just kind of wanted to grow one, and it kind of stuck. Captain Maths, first time chatter. How's it going? Good to see you. Welcome. Casey and John Blow have little to no beards, just saying that is true also. Yeah. It's not a a black and white, as it were, right? Um, there are definitely exception cases in both directions. Um, nor John Carmack, exactly, right? Um, I, however, am the leader of dingus-oriented programming. So, that's where I make stupid mistakes online and in front of, however many viewers I have, where I do stupid programming mistakes like off by one errors and stuff like that. So, yeah, I've got that bit on lockdown for sure. What's the motivation for building an engine when there are so many? So, a lot of existing game engines, especially the big three, are complete overkill for a lot of projects, right? Um, they tend to be rather large and heavy. And using a game engine that somebody else has created is always going to be their sort of preferred workflow, which there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it might not necessarily be the workflow that you need for a particular project. Things like licensing can get in the way. Things like the design of the engine can get in the way sometimes. So sometimes it's just like, I actually have this super specific set of requirements that Unreal or Unity or whatever does not meet. And so sometimes you have to do it for that reason. Also, when you own the project yourself, that means that you have control over how it works and know how to get in there and fix the bugs yourself versus relying on others to do that. There's also the educational and fun aspect of it, the learning aspect of it, which is what we're doing here. But yeah, there's many reasons. Those are just a few off the top of my head. Even Godot. I mean, Godot is probably overkill for some projects, yeah. Most projects can be served with a simple project software renderer. Yes, exactly. Yeah. You'll learn more than using stuff off the shelf, using an off-the-shelf solution. Yes, exactly. RCW nailed it on the head. Found you via the tube a long time ago. Followed you here on Twitch. Think your streams rarely intersect with my awake hours. Probably, yeah. I don't normally stream during this time, so. All right. Zwixo, hello, over on the YouTube side. Okay. So I'm really beginning to think that maybe the problem is in here. Out of curiosity, I wonder what happens I wonder what happens if I do this. I'm wondering if like maybe one of my interpolation functions is wrong or something along those lines. There's a whole bunch of code that hasn't been executed here, exercised here, right? So, okay, so that's interesting. So, actually, this gives me a decent perspective as to what might be actually happening. So, the fact that everything's condensed on itself actually makes sense in this case, right? Because we just used identity, which is going to basically take everything and put it in the center. And if we look at the wireframe, I guess you can't really tell too much about the through the wireframe. But it actually does make sense. And it renders fine here. So what this tells me is that it likely is something in here that is just wrong. So I wonder if I do. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Appreciate that. Rare W off schedule stream. Yeah, exactly. Yep. It is rare. And it will remain to be so. The T-pose is weird. That wasn't actually a T-pose. that was actually just me essentially saying, instead of using a transform for all the nodes, use identity. Because I wanted to see if all of the actual nodes were actually, not nodes, meshes were actually coming in and rendering correctly on their own. That's not necessarily a T-pose. I could, if you wanted to see the T-pose, I can go to here, and we can turn off the autoplay the first animation. Right, and I might have actually, interesting. I wonder if that actually, that doesn't render at all. Interesting. Why is that? Because turning off the animation should make it actually do that. So why has that? Let me think about this for a second. Because that should have given me the T-pose. That's very strange that it didn't. I'm going to have to figure that out. I'm not going to figure it out right now because I've got other stuff I'm looking into, but I am going to put a note in here. Turning this off should result in the T-pose. Okay, so animator updates. Do we actually do? Do we actually use this anywhere? No, we don't. I wonder if this function is just foobar. Because we actually aren't actually using this anywhere else, which makes me wonder. So I wonder if I just do this inline. Right, so we'll do let's see, do we have node transform is node local transform? Wait.
You dingus.
Wait, node local transform. What do I get if I actually just disable this entirely? That might actually give me the T-pose. Oh, interesting. So even that is wrong. Okay, that's actually enlightening. So I don't think it's this at all then. I think it's actually, let me actually just comment this out just so I don't forget it. So the local transform is not being applied correctly. So the local transform is just the transform from the bone itself.
You dingus.
So we have the world transform as the parent. Parent transform. which recurses, so that might be, I need to keep that. Thank you for the follows, by the way. I wonder if, what happens if I do what happens if I take what if I just do this? Let's try eliminating one thing at a time here. That's even worse. Okay, so even taking bones out of the equation, it's like our node transforms are wrong. Because all we're doing right now is taking the node transform, multiplying it by the parent transform to get the world transform. We're using that, which is nothing crazy. Are you using the global transform from the root node? Root node, yes. So that is the, actually, do I have that in here? Where did I put that in? That is, oh, you know what? I did turn that off, actually. That's actually probably what broke this. That was right here, the global inverse transform. So this should actually probably be, I should leave that first line, right? That's what takes that into account. That might have actually been why that got a little bit worse. Good call. Okay, so this kind of gives me the, unanimated version of like what we were seeing before. Which this looks like, see, the mesh is actually fine. It's just like the offsets of all of the offsets of all of the bones are what seems to be just completely wrong. Like, see, like the feet are even correct, but like it's like the node hierarchy is foobar, because actually we're not even taking bones into account now. So let me just leave a thing to come back to here. Let me do a left off, actually. And here. Just so I don't forget how I've broken it, right? All right. So final bone matrices is what winds up in the storage buffer, right? So this is basically a offset into the an offset into the storage buffer where essentially writing to this memory writes to the memory that eventually gets put directly in the storage buffer. So we do that by bone index. I suppose that logic could be wrong too. Actually, I think it's shader data. Yeah, here we go. Nope, that's not it. Here we go. So I suppose that could be that as well, although I don't think this is the problem. So for each of our animated mesh instances, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. allocates wait a minute. So what are the odds that the buffer is just full of rubbish at this point? I think this might actually be a problem. So the animator, new instance, push instances. Oh boy. That's a problem. This array is actually this type. Right, so this should be
You dingus.
new inst. Dingus-oriented programming, indeed. And then this, let me actually just rename this. We'll say new animator. And then undo this, and then push into this, new instance. And new instance animator is going to be, I guess we should probably just do, let's actually just do this. Let's see, this is going to be dot animator. This one. Right. So we have that. That gets pushed into there. So that definitely would have been a problem. Shader data. Allocates out of the shader data pool. So the problem with this is this just gives us a block of memory that's out of here, but we have no idea as to the offset of that block of memory within the entire shader data array, shader data pool. So when we go to index this in the shader, when we go to index this in the shader has this animation skin data, right? Which is essentially what this shader data is. If we do this here, right, it has this. So that's where those two things lined up. And then if we take a look at the storage buffer itself, the storage buffer is basically just a massive array of this, right? And so when we go to index into that, we are getting the global animations by animation index. That animation index is an index into this array. However, we actually don't know at this point where this block of memory lies in that, aka what index it is. All we have is an instance ID, which we're saying should line up with that. But that's not necessarily how that's going to work. Ugh, crap. Okay. This probably would have worked the first time around, maybe, but I think this is part of the problem. Let me just build this with this little change here and just see if that actually fixes anything. No, not really. It's a hell of a creepy looking monster, though, you have to admit. All right, so we have the materials, which that seems to be working. So I almost feel like we need to when we get this, we almost need to include like a ID into that, right? Like an index into that sort of array, if you will, because that's ultimately all this actually is under the hood. All right, how do I access that? So if we do like an output parameter, then we can take that output parameter and use it as the animation index. Which actually, now that you think about it, the animation index is the animation ID. That is actually not correct. Geometry animation ID. And remember, we had a to-do to say get the currently playing animation ID. So what we need is not actually the animation ID. So that's actually named badly. What we actually need is a ID into that animation data index, which is really just a bunch of bones. Okay, I think I understand part of the problem here. So here we do have, we should probably do this. We'll say U32 pointer out index, right? And then in here, we'll do the same thing. And then I guess we'll have to calculate the index based off of the size of the offset, I should say, versus the element size. So we can do out index equals how do I want to do this? It's going to be the allocator capacity let me think, divided by offset. No, that doesn't seem right. It seems opposite of what I want. So this is the total size. Actually, I think what I want is No, it shouldn't be that. It should be oops. Yeah, it should be offset divided by allocator element size. That's what it should be. And then we'll cast that to U32. Right. So if we take that, and we'll do animator. Should we do current animation? We'll do, I guess, base. Let's see. ID of the base mesh, index in the animation array, current animation. Right, that's not what we need. We need, think about this for a second. So shader data, we need a U32 shader data index. So this is going to be, oh, I don't think I can do this as an output parameter this way. Okay, that's annoying. So we'll do new inst animator, and then we'll do address of new inst animator shader data index. What did I mess up there? Oh. Right. Okay, so let's actually just do this one. I can do just the address of animator shader data index. I'll put there. So now I've got that. That is ultimately what becomes the animation ID that gets passed to the shader to index into the storage buffer. I think that's right. All right, so let's see. So there's the pool. Here we go. Let's get that. What do you think? Animation ID. Right. The animation. In here, the animation ID for a animated. Currently playing animation for this model. So this is not what should be there. This should actually be. Do I actually have a way to access this? I don't know that I do. I don't know that I do. Let's do. Do we actually have animated mesh instance? I think I need to go actually here. Don't we actually have a way to get the internal data from this? I thought we did. Nope. Okay. So I guess what we can do here is we'll just say, I'm actually just going to copy this one, and we're going to do a U32 return type, and we're going to say mesh instance animation ID get. And here we'll pass the instance, and then And then all we'll do here is go here and implement it. Okay, so let's see, base and instance and animator. We'll need those three. And then we should be return animator shader data index is going to be the actual value that we want to use. So we'll want to take this, use it over here. Do we not actually have... Yeah, we do. Okay, so animation, do we actually have the animation state? Animated mesh state. And then what else did it want? It wanted the instance, so that's going to be on the entity mesh. And then I think that's actually it, right? So we can do rd dot animation ID equals that, right? And I'm going to leave the fix me there for the time being, but this animation ID now should index into the right part of the array. Oh, did we not? I guess we don't need base for this. All right, so, oh, interesting. That does not seem to have done, actually, I think it did have some effect. I might have to like render doc this to figure out what the heck is going on here. Some of it actually looks better-ish, but some of it's really still pretty foobar. Let me think, what else am I missing? I'm just not connecting the dots here somewhere. Let's see. Query animations. No, we don't need to do anything there. Yeah, I don't think I see. Let me check frame prepare. Maybe there's something in here that I've done wrong or update. Animator updates. So we just update for each of the bases, for each of the instances within the base. We update its animator. I feel like the timing on this is correct. All right, I don't see anything here that looks particularly wrong. Node counts. All right, so we take the base node counts. Oh, wait a minute. I see something that we might actually have to. I wonder if we're just doing this out of order, or if this should be... Oh, I wonder if that should be the first root parent transform that we pass in. That might actually be something. Right, so we're going to say animator updates, right. I guess we'll call this, actually, we'll just do this. We'll just do we actually have, where did we get the asset here? This. right? So we have that, and then we should probably just use this here. I wonder if the problem is we're applying the inverse global transform at every single layer, and we shouldn't be. Maybe we should just be doing this. And actually, let me move this up here, right? So maybe if we do this, and then take that out of here by just saying, let's use world transform here. I wonder if that's where I got it wrong. How? Yeah, it still looks the same. So world transform, we take the node transform. I guess I could undo. Well, no, this should still be fine. This should give me the T-pose effectively. So if the T-pose is foobar at this level, then no wonder nothing is going to work, right? I mean, I suppose I could add this back in. But something tells me that's probably not going to fix it. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Welcome. Yeah, that actually looks a little bit worse. Okay, so unless maybe my multiplication order is wrong, which actually could be. I might have this backwards. No, I don't think so. No, because that's applying that after the fact. I don't think it's that. At least not at that level. So the world transform. Oh, wait a minute. We're passing world transform when we recurse here. Should we be passing final matrix? I wonder if we should be. Let me hoist this. Something tells me that's not right either, but oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, no, that's definitely wrong. Well, that's way more wrong. Okay. That's definitely not right. Okay. Because the final bone matrix is supposed to be just the matrix of the bone in world space. Node index. Like, I'm fairly confident that it's not any of this stuff up here, because this should just give us, I mean, I guess I could re-enable this too, but I really don't think this is it. Let's see, can you point out the video where you diverted from using, let's see, VS to this Linux and NeoVim setup? So I was following along from the beginning. Thank you. I want to say that's like around episode like 103 or something. Let me see. Give me a second here, and I can see if I can actually... Playlist. I want to say it's like, I want to say 103, but I could be wrong. Nope, it's not 103. It's somewhere around 103, I think. I don't fully remember where, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, it's somewhere soon after episode 100. I just don't remember exactly where. I'd have to poke through a whole bunch of episodes to be sure. And I don't think... let's see. Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I think it's somewhere soon after episode 100. I'll look one more time. Yeah, because episode 112 has it, so you know, it's somewhere between 105 and 112. I do have all the info on my website about the current setup. I can do this though. Assuming my bot wants to work tonight. Apparently it's not going to. All right, sweet. Oh, there it goes. There's the NeoVim setup right there. Yep. Okay. Let's see. I built this. Did I... Let's turn that back off. Actually, did I run this? I don't remember now. I think I did, and I think it was, yeah. Yeah, so it's still, like, you can see the animation timing looks correct, and, like, the general movement's correct. It's just, for some reason, we've got something going on here with our transforms just not being correct. Did I actually try? Did I try this version? I don't think this is going to work because I think the individual matrices need to actually be in world space, but not when we're talking about hierarchy. Yeah, and that doesn't even work when I have the animator playing. It doesn't animate anything. Okay. So I'm not too surprised that that one doesn't work. Is it possible, I wonder? What if I just do node transform here? And kill this completely. Of course, it's not going to like that. Unused variable. Yep, I know. I know. Just let me build the thing, okay? All right. Yeah, that's not right either. I'm beginning to wonder if, like, my file got corrupted along the way somewhere. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm starting to feel like something somewhere. Oh yeah, this should be final matrix. How many years have you spent building this engine? Technically, as far as the calendar goes, 4.5. But asterisk. I spend far less than part-time hours on this per week. right? So maximum is like 10 to 15 hours of effort that I spend each week. So if you were to extrapolate that out to full-time hours and me not explaining things and interacting with chat and stuff like that, you're talking probably a little less than a year of actual development time. So take that as you will. Dustin, my dudes, good to see you. How's it going? Welcome. Engine's getting large. Why not build a little program that looks at all your code and builds a graphical node-based visual layout of how all the functions are connected in what order? That wouldn't have very much value at this point because we're changing, we're changing the structure of things on the fly still. So I could do that, but then it would be like immediately out of date. So yeah, I will have charts and stuff like that, like once we finalize a little bit more. But things are changing a little bit too rapidly still for that to be something that I'm going to do just yet. Perhaps it's handy to see where mistakes lie. I don't think so. Only because any mistakes that I find are going to be in code, right? I already, find things like interface wise where I'm like, this doesn't really work. And I can find that out without even, using a graphical representation of it, right? I just find it in the code as I'm working with it. Yeah, I don't really need a visual layout because it's up here, but also, I just kind of find it in the code. So yeah. Okay. So we know we're indexing into the shader storage buffer correctly now. So that's not an issue. Process animator. We're now using the asset global adverse transform as sort of the base transform, which brings everything into that space. So I think that is actually probably far better to do it. Anyways. For me, whenever I tried to code, the mistakes were always typos or placement issues. Yeah, exactly. Or, an off by one error or something like that, for sure. Happens to a guy all the time, for sure. So I don't think it's any of the timescale stuff. Process animator, node index. Yeah, so the animator is local to the instance. Where do we actually get? So the animator is passed in. So we have animator update. That gets called here from mesh system update, animator mesh system update. And we get that from the state instances sub b sub I dot animator. Yes. That looks good. I don't see any issues there. Let me think. So even with all of this stuff turned off, it's still wrong. Which makes me wonder if I'm actually still doing something stupid in the importer. Because I literally don't see anything else in our... Like, we've got all of our interpolation turned off. I don't see anything wrong, possibly, in our animation system past this point. Unless, well, okay. We do have the animated mesh loaded. Maybe we're doing something stupid in here. We haven't checked this yet. So this is when the model asset loads from disk. So we take the global inverse transform as is. Here's the bones. So animated mesh bone, bone count. Source is going to be asset bones. Base is, or target is going to be base bones. K animated mesh bone. And then K asset model bone. And I believe those two things. We probably don't even need this ID. The more I think about it. I don't think we're actually using it for anything. So name offset and ID. Name offset ID. So that's pretty much just a straight copy for now. Nodes. So we have base nodes and then parent index. I wonder if any of these nodes, you know what? I actually see something that's potentially an issue here. So we're going through these nodes. Let's say we are currently iterating node index 4. And we say, okay, it has a parent index of, I don't know, 8 or something like that, right? Or actually, I guess it's going to be the opposite. That's true. So we say target child count and then children. The children, we're going to iterate. Wait, did we even do that here? We just copy this. So I guess that's actually not. These are both U16s, right? So actually, this is just indexes. This shouldn't be an issue at this point, actually. Okay. And then when we do animations, let's see. Let me see something. Oh, there's a U32 where it should be a U16. That might be a problem. So let's see. This was... Well, that's just during release, though. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Process animator, so we recurse the children. Child ID. What about... Parent index equals invalid ID U16. So those are roots. So we do that, and then we process animator. And we loop through children. At this point, I don't see anything actually out of whack here as far as how that goes. So we take the, oh wait a minute, why does this feel backwards to me? Shouldn't it be node transform multiplied by parent transform? Or do I have that backwards? Maybe I have that backwards. No, I don't think that's the answer. I could have swore, though, that we had... in the scene. Transparent, don't care about that. Deserialize entity, don't care about that. Add entity. Recalculate transforms, here we go. So I'm pretty sure we do, yeah, child times parent. Okay, so that was backwards. So this should be, the node transform would be sort of the child and then times the parent. So that bit actually was backwards, so that's part of the problem. And then the final matrix is world transform times, so maybe this is backwards then. Right, maybe this is backwards. It feels something like that kind of an issue. Aha. There it is. That's what it was. The whole freaking time was just matrix multiplication order. Ugh. Okay. So that's the first frame of our animation, right? So now, if I enable this other stuff, I think we finally got it. Yep. We got it. Finally got it. Look at that. Now I can sleep in peace. Awesome. Yeah, me too. No crap. Man, was this a grind. And there's still some stuff, there's still some obvious, graphical issues we have to fix, but that's all like small potatoes compared to what we just did. Like this is a huge milestone for sure. Pop the champagne, yeah, exactly. Sergeant Pepper raiding with a party of 22. Thank you so much, Sergeant Pepper. How have you been, buddy? You picked a really good time to raid, too. If you guys aren't following Sergeant Pepper, make sure to do it. Dude will look at this and say, hell yeah. Yeah. What'd you get up to on stream, Sergeant Pepper? Welcome, Raiders. So for reference, what we're looking at right now is we actually just, literally before you guys raided in, got our animation system up and working. Which is awesome. There's still some graphical stuff I've got to figure out with it, but we actually have our own custom model format that we wrote. We wrote our animator from scratch. We wrote our all of this has been written from scratch, and we've been working on it for a few weeks now, several weeks now. And we actually literally just got it working like right before you guys raided in. So I'm super excited about that. Milestones all around, y'all. Yeah, this is a huge milestone for us, for sure. Because I've been wanting an animated mesh system in for quite a while. Just got my TCP socket protocol working so I can auth my game through socket and get a response with my struct serializing, deserializing through a binary encoder. That's awesome. Easy peasy stuff compared to your chat engine. I don't know about all that, but like, it's just different skill sets, right? Like, I haven't done networking stuff in a very long time, so it would take me, I would stumble over it like a noob for sure. By the way, I recommend you Zed. It's really RAM efficient. So are you talking about the editor? I mean, I've heard of it. I'm just like so embedded in the NeoVim way of doing things that I don't know if I'd switch at this point. Now that animation's done, time to compete with Unreal. I don't know about all that, RCW. Yeah, I don't know about all that, but this is definitely a huge step. One of the main things that we needed, and one of the last missing huge components that we needed to get started on our game. So there are some other things that we have to do to enhance this system. So for right now, it only plays one single animation. We might eventually need animation blending. I'm not going to put that in until we need it, but we might eventually need that. Obviously, I need to actually make some models so that we actually have some stuff to animate and change back and forth between different animations, so that we can actually have a player that runs around, animated and all that goodness. But so there's a couple things we have to do before we can actually tie all of this up. There's a little bit of cleanup to do. I've got some to-dos in the code. I also want to take our static mesh system that we have and combine it with the animated mesh system and make them one. Combine the shaders as well.
You dingus.
So that we only have one shader that just switches based on some logic. So that we don't have to have, two different sets of descriptors and all of that other stuff. So that we can just have, we don't have all the pipeline switching and all that stuff. So I need to do that. And then combining those two systems will make loading assets much easier into the scene. I probably ought to have something to be able to automatically play an animation when it loads, when a model loads. We kind of have a hack in there that's doing it for us right now, but we probably ought to have something in there that does it the right way so it's configurable in our level file. But yeah, for now, this is definitely a pretty big milestone for sure. So I'm super happy with this. And in fact, probably what I'm going to do is even right here where the code is, maybe minus a couple cleanup items, I'm probably just going to push this to the GitHub repo as is. Just so that, God forbid something happens, I don't lose it. Thank you for the follows, by the way. Appreciate that. I like that a lot also. It's great for Rust and Mojo. I don't use Rust, though. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm sure it's got stuff to work with C and whatnot. Don't think you'd like Zed from NeoVim. So, is that the one, or is it Helix? I'm trying to think. Is it one of them sort of works the opposite way of Vim in terms of like selection and then edits versus edits and selections or something like that? I might be thinking of Helix, actually. Helix, yeah, okay. Zed has good Vim emulation. But see, here's the thing, right? Why would I use a different editor and emulate Vim when I could just use Vim? You know what I mean? I mean, maybe I'll try it at some point, but I don't think there's a whole lot of value there for me at the moment. But I have heard of it. I've looked into it probably a year ago or so. I don't remember how long ago it was, but yeah. But yeah, let me see. Let's see. I don't see Troll Fangs. He's moving like Eddie from Tekken. Yeah. I didn't make the model or the animation. I just sourced that off the internet. So, are you going to move animation to the GPU? If I need to. I don't think I'm going to need to, though. Not at least for the game that I'm building. I don't think I'm going to have much reason to do that. But maybe. Maybe. It's one of those things where, like, this engine, I'm basically building what we need as we need it. And, not really anything more. Model implementation done. Done? I'll say working. We literally just got this working. So, the animations are doing the thing now. So, we have some cleanup to do and whatnot, but at least, this is a huge visual milestone. So don't mind me if I'm just kind of watching it for a minute, because this was a lot of work to actually get to this point. But yeah. Okay, so one thing I did want to check, because I actually think I don't think I'm generating normals correctly. No. Well, it's a little hard to tell because he doesn't really rotate. Actually, no, the arms are wrong. Yeah, because that arm goes down. Yeah, that's wrong. Okay, so I think I might know what that is. I could probably fix that really quickly. So that is the... That is likely this bit. Oops. Yeah. That I had disabled. So we have the bone transform here, and then if we use that times the mod or times the in normal, I think that might give us what we need. Let's find out. So let's just move him over here and see. Yeah. Yep, that looks a lot better. Yeah, if we take a look at the lighting. Yeah, that looks relatively correct. Okay, well that was an easy fix. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was actually going to work, but cool. All right, let me go ahead and let's see. Now that we have that done and the animation system, let's turn off or get rid of these things. Delete some dead code here. Do we have any to-dos in here? Yeah, we do. I'm not going to worry about those. Not going to worry about that. We can come back to that. All right, so there's only 4 of them. What about fix me's? No. Okay. So we have animated meshes hooked up to the renderer, and we did finalize the import process. So that is actually all done. All right. Now, the next step on this, I think, is going to be probably unifying the static mesh and the animated mesh into a single model system. Because they both are kind of somewhatly sort of similar anyways. And so combining them, I think, is just going to allow us to remove a lot of duplicated logic. And just simplify the way that things are overall. But I'm going to do that in a separate pass. Does the animation adjust to different FPS? It should, yeah. Because it's using the delta time from the frame. Oh, the other thing that you know what? I forgot to actually set something. I forgot to test something. We do have a time scale in here, right? So let me actually go into this scene. And I've got a hack in here. Oh, that's right. I wanted to see, let me see if turning this off results in a T-pose. I don't remember if it does. And that might have not been happening because, yeah, okay, so that still doesn't actually work. So we're going to have to figure out that. So I'll leave that fix me in there. I'm guessing we need to have some sort of way to actually hook up like the bind pose so that we did have it hooked up before, interestingly though. because we did actually have this rendering initially with the T-pose. I'm guessing it would just be minus any sort of animation data. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that one. However, the other thing I wanted to try out was the K animated mesh. Let's do system timescale, right? So we're going to do animation system, and we're going to speed it up to 2.0. Or actually, you know what? Let's be crazy. Let's go 5. And we'll go ahead and launch. And so now what we should see is we should see it animating really friggin' fast, which works, right? So we can scale the times of our animations as well with that. So probably at some point I'll hook up some console commands so I can enter something in our debug console and just control it that way. But yeah, we can actually apply as timescale to the animations as well. That's just the global system level one. Did I actually put one? I thought I did. So we have K animated mesh system timescale. Or instance. Did we have? I thought we did have one. We do have a. Oh, there it is right there. That's it. Okay. So we do have this also. Right, so that's going to be animation system, entity, mesh, base mesh. And then we'll have, I guess we'll do 2.0 on this one. Right? Or actually, what does this want? Oh, I don't want base mesh here. I just want mesh. Right? So we'll get rid of this one. And actually, you know what? I'll do 0.5 on this one. All right, so now when we load this timescale is actually using the local timescale to this particular animation, right? So we have granular control over the speed that animations play at both levels, right? So we have the ability to speed everything up, and the ability to, you know, speed them up individually or slow them down, whatever. No kidding, I live not too far from a small mountain that is called Vroman's Nose. That is in New York. I know right where that is, actually. And that is because my family used to own that entire valley. Until, you know, 2 brothers in my family history got into a pissing contest with one another, blew all the family inheritance, and now we're broke. So yes, I'm very familiar with Vroman's Nose. I've been up that mountain before, actually. But yeah, that's really cool. Haven't heard anybody on here actually mention that before. I know right where that is. Do I live in New York anymore? No. I never have. No. In fact, none of my family lives up there anymore. My dad did until a few years ago, but yeah, none of us are up there anymore. Too dang expensive. Let's see. Delta time, use that a lot with Love 2D. Yeah, Delta time is you know, it does the thing. All right, so I'll just leave these in here as examples. Examples of time scale. That shouldn't be a to-do, that should be a note. All right, so our time scale works as well. So there are a couple things in here we have to resolve, but I'm not really going to worry about those too much. I was actually beginning to worry that I wasn't going to be able to fix this issue before I ended the stream tonight, so it's awesome that I did get it fixed. Is there anything else in here? I don't think there is anything else in here that I need to address right this second. I don't see anything else. I think we're probably good. One thing I'll do is do the KAssets importer model. We can get rid of that to do. That did in fact need to be the inverse. To do. Sure. Next. Fong. Okay, that's for Fong materials. I don't really care about Fong materials right now. We do need to get that back in place, but okay. So let's do so this is the Git status for the engine itself. Updated. Actually, let's just say animation system works. Right? I don't normally make my commit messages like that, but that was kind of a big one. Let's just push this. And all of these changes, by the way, are being made to the 0.11 branch. So the 0.11 branch, if you try to run it by itself right now, it's not going to work because we have some changes to make to the testbed template. We currently have that turned off. Yeah, we'll get to those soon. Git status, rather. So, there's going to be a couple changes that I don't want in here for the game level stuff. I want to undo this. And I want to undo this because those are wrong. I think everything else is fine though. So yeah, we just added something to our scene. We hooked this into Illumina main, which that all seems to work in the reflection passes and everything, which is cool. We still need to do some work around the shadow passes, but that's another thing. Probably not going to do that until after I combine the systems. Yeah, okay. So I think I'm pretty good with that. So let's just do another status here. Git add. So I guess I'll just use the same commit message. That's fine. And so that is the changes to the game code, which you guys don't have access to yet. But all of the changes that I'm making here will be reflected in the testbed application at some point. Okay. So with that, I did accomplish everything and more that I set off to accomplish in this stream. So this is probably where I'm going to end it for today. Let's see. Gonna veg out on YouTube. Talk to you later now that I followed. I appreciate the follow. Thank you. Much appreciated. All right. So with that said, let's find somebody to raid. And I do want to just say a big thank you to all of you guys for chilling out with me today on the extra stream. It's been a lot of fun. And I'm glad we actually, moved forward, which is awesome. So let's see. Let's see who's online. And while I look for somebody, if you guys haven't already, I would greatly appreciate a follow. I heard a couple come in, so thank you for that. But I am trying to grow the channel. my YouTube channel and my Twitch channel. So if you haven't already, I would greatly encourage you to follow. I'd greatly appreciate it. On one or the other, or both, if you're so inclined. And yeah, let's see. Wait a minute. Trying to find something that's loosely related here. Thank you again for the follows. I appreciate that. I'm just looking through the list here of channels to raid. I usually like trying to raid smaller channels if I can, just to share the love a little bit. Bear with me just a minute here. This is like a completely different list than I'm used to looking at, actually. Probably because of the time. Twitch's list of like channels is very weird too, because I told it like software and game development, and it's showing me stuff that's like notably not that. All right, I think, let me just refresh this once, and I think I know what direction I'm going to go in. I see you went PRC thinking about making the switch myself, but I fear missing templates for math. It's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. I've been living without them for quite a while now. Plenty happily. All right. There's not really much game dev on right now that's like coding stuff, you know? All right. Let's see. Just trying to find something. I'm not really finding anything interesting, to be honest. All right, actually, I can't tell what they're working in, but let's try this channel. We'll see what they're up to. All right. So thank you guys very much for being here. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I will catch you guys at our next regularly scheduled stream time, which will be this Wednesday at 9 Eastern. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.